I wasn't supposed to be home yet. That's the thing about betrayal, it doesn't wait for a convenient time. It doesn't send you a calendar invite, it just happens. And you walk right into it, wearing your work badge and carrying a bag of Christmas gifts you wrapped during your lunch break. December 24th, Christmas Eve, 6:47 p.m. I'd left the hospital early, pulled a double to cover for someone else's family time. Ironic now that I think about it, and all I wanted was to collapse on our couch with Marcus, maybe watch one of those terrible holiday movies he secretly loves but pretends to hate. Our Brooklyn brownstone glowed warm against the frozen street. Windows lit up like a jewelry box. I could hear music from the sidewalk, Marvin Gaye, Marcus's favorite, and laughter. Lots of laughter. Good, I thought. Everyone's already here. I'd told them 8 p.m. I'd specifically said 8 p.m. because I wanted time to shower, to change out of my scrubs that smelled like antiseptic and 12-hour shifts. But hearing that joy spilling out into the winter air made me smile despite my exhaustion. My family, our home, Christmas. I pushed open the heavy oak door, the one we'd refinished together last spring, Marcus's hands over mine, teaching me how to sand with the grain, and stepped into the warmth. The laughter got louder. I set my keys in the ceramic bowl by the entrance, the one my mother made before she died, the one Marcus knew meant everything to me. "Can't believe it, man. You're gonna be a father." My brother's voice, coming from the living room. I smiled, confused, started to pull off my coat. Then I heard Marcus. "My husband." His voice thick with emotion I hadn't heard in years. "I know, right? A son. We're having a son." I froze. "We're having?" My hand stopped midair, coat half off. Because Marcus and we'd been trying. God, we'd been trying for 3 years. 3 years of negative tests and doctor's appointments, and him holding me while I cried into his shoulder every month like clockwork. 3 years of, "It's okay, baby. We'll keep trying." 3 years of "it'll happen when it's meant to happen." My feet moved without permission, down the hallway, toward the living room. Toward voices that suddenly felt too loud, too celebratory, too wrong. I stopped in the doorway. And my entire world tilted sideways. Marcus stood in the center of our living room, with the couch we picked out, the art we chose together, the rug my paycheck bought, with his arm wrapped around a woman I hadn't seen in 15 years. Talia Whitmore, his high school girlfriend, the one he said didn't matter anymore, the one he said was ancient history. Her hand rested on a visible baby bump, round, proud, undeniable. Marcus beamed, actually beamed, the kind of smile I hadn't seen on his face since our wedding day, and even then, I'm not sure it was this bright. Everyone he raised his champagne glass. "Talia's pregnant. 16 weeks. We're expecting a boy." Cheers erupted, actual cheers. My brother. Marcus's sister. His mother with tears streaming down her face, pulling Talia into a hug like she was the daughter she'd always wanted. My father-in-law popped another bottle. Someone, I think it was Marcus's college roommate, slapped him on the back. "My man. Finally." "Right?" Marcus laughed. Finally. My Christmas gift bag slipped from my fingers, hit the hardwood with a soft thud. No one turned. No one noticed. I stood there, a ghost in my own home, and watched my husband celebrate a pregnancy with another woman at a party I'd been invited to 2 hours late. Marcus's cousin Rachel, who'd been in our wedding, giggled into her wine. "Wait, does Nia know yet? Where is she?" The room went quiet for exactly 2 seconds. Marcus' smile didn't falter, didn't even flicker. "Not yet," he said casually. Easily. Like he was discussing dinner plans. "I need her to sign the papers first. Divorce papers. My lawyer's drafting them now. Should be ready after New Year's." He took a sip of champagne. "Don't say anything when she gets here. I need this done clean." Nods. Murmurs of agreement. Knowing glances exchanged across my living room. They knew. They all knew. My brother wouldn't meet anyone's eyes, but he didn't speak up either. Marcus's mother dabbed at her tears, but not tears of shame, tears of joy. Complicit, every single one of them. I couldn't breathe, couldn't move, couldn't process the mathematical impossibility of what I was hearing. Then Talia, wearing a dress I recognized from my own closet, a maternity version of something I'd bought myself in hopeful preparation years ago, lifted her glass. Her eyes, when they swept the room, were cold, calculating. "Once the papers are signed," she said, voice sweet as poisoned honey, "the whole estate becomes ours. This house, the accounts, everything. His lawyer confirmed it. New York's pretty clear on marital property. She smiled. Here's to new beginnings. They drank. To my ending. In my house. With my champagne flutes. On Christmas Eve, I took one step backward, then another, my body moving on autopilot, survival mode, the same way it moves during a code blue at the hospital. Assess. React. Survive. I turned, walked back down the hallway, picked up my keys from my mother's ceramic bowl, and I left. Closed the door so softly they never even heard it click. Outside, the Brooklyn winter hit my face like a slap. I stood on the stoop of the home I'd helped buy, the brownstone, my inheritance down paid, my nursing salary maintained, and watched my breath fog in the December air. Inside, the music played on. Inside, they laughed. Inside, my husband planned my erasure. I looked down at my left hand. The engagement ring I'd worn for 7 years caught the streetlight. 3 small diamonds. It's all I can afford right now, Marcus had said, 23 years old and earnest. But I promise, Nia, I promise you everything. I twisted it off my finger, held it up to the light, and smiled. Not a happy smile. Not a sad smile. Something else entirely. Something they were going to regret teaching me. I dropped the ring in my coat pocket, pulled out my phone and made a call. Hi, yes, I need to speak with an attorney. Tonight if possible. 2 weeks. That's all I needed. Just 2 weeks. The subway rattled beneath me as I sat in an empty car at 11 p.m., phone pressed to my ear, listening to my attorney's voicemail greeting for the 3rd time. Above ground, Christmas lights blinked in apartment windows. Below, I was calling lawyers on Christmas Eve. I hung up, stared at my reflection in the dark window across from me. When did I become this woman, the one who didn't recognize her own life? The smell of hospital disinfectant still clung to my scrubs. It always did after a double shift. That sharp, clean scent that means survival and sterility and someone, somewhere, making it through another day. My mother used to say I smelled like hope when I came home from work. God, I missed her. She died 7 years ago. Stroke. Sudden and merciless. The way death comes when you've worked yourself to exhaustion cleaning other people's houses for 30 years. She left me the brownstone, the same one my father bought in 1987 with his firefighter's salary, before 9/11 took him from us when I was 12. That house was all I had left of them, their sacrifice, their dream of giving me something solid in a city that chews people up. I was 24 when Mom died. Just graduated nursing school. Drowning in student loans. And there was Marcus, charming, ambitious Marcus with his trader dreams and his promises that he'd take care of everything once his business took off. Babe, don't worry about the mortgage, he'd say, kissing my forehead while I sat at the kitchen table with bills spread out like tarot cards predicting disaster. Focus on your career. I've got us. But Marcus's business never took off. Not the first year, not the second, not ever really. So I worked. Days at Mount Sinai, nights at a clinic in Queens. I learned to sleep 4 hours and call it rest. I learned to smile through exhaustion, because patients needed to see strength. Not the fact that I'd eaten ramen for dinner 3 nights straight, so Marcus could afford another networking lunch with potential investors who never materialized. His mother, Patricia Rowan, a woman who wore her judgment like expensive perfume, would visit and ask, "Still working both jobs, Nia?" With that particular tone that mothers-in-law reserve for daughters they never wanted. Marcus works so hard. Such long hours at the office. The office being our converted basement where he day traded with money I'd loaned him from my father's life insurance. I never told Patricia that. Never told her I'd paid for Marcus's trading platform subscription. Or that I'd covered his car payment for 8 months straight. Or that when his sister needed emergency dental work, I'm the one who quietly handed over $2,000 because family takes care of family. That's what I believed. That's what my parents taught me. Family meant showing up. It meant sacrifice without scorecards. It meant loving someone enough to carry them until they could walk on their own. I carried Marcus for 7 years. Every mortgage payment me. Every utility bill me. Every repair, every property tax, every insurance premium on a house he started calling ours the day we got married. I never corrected him. Because isn't that what marriage is? Sharing? I remember one night, maybe 4 years ago, sitting on our front stoop after a 16-hour shift. My feet ached, my back ached, everything ached. Marcus came out with 2 beers, sat beside me, put his arm around my shoulders. "Look at this place," he said, gesturing at the brownstone, at the tree-lined street, at the neighborhood that was just starting to gentrify. "Someday, babe, all of this is really going to be worth something. All of this will be ours." I leaned into him, exhausted and grateful and stupidly, desperately in love. "It already is ours," I said. He kissed the top of my head. Didn't correct me. Now I understand. He never said ours meaning both of us, he meant his. His and whoever else he decided deserved a piece of what my father died for, what my mother worked herself to death to keep. The train lurched to a stop. A few passengers got on, their shopping bags bright with holiday cheer. A little girl pressed her face to the window, counting Christmas lights. If you've ever given everything to someone who later turned away, you'll understand this part. You'll know that specific hollow feeling, not just heartbreak, but the deep bone exhaustion of realizing you've been building someone else's dream while they planned your exit. Thank you to everyone who keeps these stories alive, who reminds us that kindness isn't weakness, that believing in family isn't foolish. Every word you share, every bit of support, helps protect those who still think love means partnership. My phone buzzed. A text from my brother. "Where are you? Everyone's asking." I stared at it. Everyone's asking. Not everyone's worried. Not everyone's concerned that I left my own Christmas Eve party. Just asking. Because my absence was inconvenient to their celebration. I typed back, "On my way." But I wasn't going home. Not to that house full of conspirators toasting my husband's pregnant mistress with my champagne. I had a better idea. I pulled up my contacts, found a name I hadn't called in 3 years. Dr. Sarah Chen, my old mentor from Mount Sinai. Now a top medical malpractice attorney who'd left medicine after her own divorce tried to destroy her. The phone rang twice. "Nia? It's Christmas Eve. What's wrong?" I smiled. Same Sarah, straight to the point. No small talk, fiercely protective. "Everything," I said, "and I need help taking it all back." I didn't sleep that night. Sarah had listened to everything, the party, the pregnancy, the conspirators toasting in my living room, and her silence afterward was more frightening than any advice she could have given. Finally she'd said, "Get evidence. Everything. Don't confront anyone. Just document." So at 6 a.m. on Christmas morning, while Marcus was still asleep upstairs in our bed, where apparently nothing was sacred anymore, I sat in the kitchen with my laptop and pulled up the security camera footage. My father installed that hallway camera in 2001. After 9/11, he became obsessed with safety, with protecting what little we had. The camera was old, clunky, hidden in the crown molding. Marcus had forgotten it existed. I hadn't. My hands shook as I scrolled back to 6:30 p.m., December 24th, the moment before I arrived home. There, the front door opening, Talia walking in first, Marcus's hand on the small of her back. Possessive, intimate, the way he used to touch me. She laughed at something he whispered, kissed his cheek. My stomach turned. I kept watching. Marcus's mother arriving with his father. Patricia carrying a wrapped gift, blue paper, silver bow. She handed it to Talia. "For the baby," she said, loud enough for the camera to catch. "Our first grandson. Our first." Like I didn't exist, like the years I'd spent desperately trying to give them a grandchild were just an inconvenient prologue to this moment. I forced myself to keep watching. 7 p.m. Most of the guests had arrived. The camera caught fragments of conversation as people passed through the hallway. Marcus's sister, moving her out gracefully, right? No drama? His father. The lawyer said as long as she signs willingly, it's clean. POA transfer, deed revision, bank accounts, 2 weeks. Tops. POA. Power of attorney. My vision blurred. I paused the video. Stood up. Walked to the front hall where we kept the mail. The basket was overflowing. I'd been too busy with double shifts to sort through it. I started pulling envelopes, my hands moving faster, more frantic. Electric bill, credit card statement. Holiday cards from neighbors who had no idea their cheerful wishes were landing in a house of lies. Then I saw it. A manila envelope. No stamp. Hand-delivered. My name on the front in Marcus's handwriting. For Nia, important documents. Please sign and return. I tore it open. The first page was a deed transfer form. The Brooklyn brownstone at 447 Sterling Place. My father's house, my mother's house, my house being transferred to Marcus J. Rowan and Talia A. Whitmore, joint tenancy with right of survivorship. My signature was already on it. Except it wasn't my signature. It was close. Whoever forged it had practiced. But the capital N was wrong, too looped, too eager. I've signed my name 10,000 times on medical charts. I know every angle, every pressure point. This wasn't me. The second document was worse. A power of attorney form granting Marcus full control over my finances, my medical decisions, my life dated 3 weeks ago, when I'd been working a 72-hour rotation and came home too exhausted to remember my own name. Another forged signature. The third page was a bank authorization to close my personal account, the one with my inheritance, my savings, everything I'd protected since my parents died, and transfer the funds to a joint account I'd never opened. I dropped the papers. They scattered across the hardwood like evidence at a crime scene. My knees gave out. I sat down hard on the stairs, the same stairs I'd climbed 1,000 times, exhausted from work, grateful to be home. The same stairs where Marcus proposed to me 7 years ago, down on one knee, promising me forever. My breath came in short, sharp gasps, the kind of breathing you do during a panic attack, the kind I'd coached dozens of patients through in the ER. But knowing the physiology doesn't make it stop. If you've ever trusted someone so deeply that their betrayal made you question your own worth, you're not alone, you're not crazy, you're not wrong for believing that love meant safety. Thank you to everyone who helps me tell these stories. Your support keeps this space alive for those who still believe that truth, somehow, will always find its way. I forced myself to breathe. In for 4, hold for 4, out for 4. Then I heard it. Upstairs. Marcus's voice, muffled but clear enough through our old walls. He was on the phone. I stood slowly, crept halfway up the stairs. Yeah, babe, I know. I miss you too. His voice was soft, affectionate. The voice he used to use with me. 2 more weeks, max. I'll get her to sign everything. Tell her it's just refinancing paperwork. She's so tired lately she won't even read it. A pause. The house will be ours by mid-January. Then we can move you in properly. I'll handle Naya. Don't worry. I'll handle Nia. Like I was a problem to be managed, a obstacle to be removed, not a person, not his wife, not the woman who'd carried him for 7 years. I walked back downstairs, picked up the forged documents, took a photo of each one, sent them to Sarah with a single text. Is this enough? Her response came in seconds. It's enough to destroy him. I'll see you in my office tomorrow. Merry Christmas, Nia. Let's get you your life back. I looked up at the ceiling, at the bedroom where my husband slept soundly, dreaming of his new life, and I smiled. Not with happiness. Not with sadness. With something Marcus had taught me. Certainty. The hotel room cost $89 a night. I found it on my phone at 2 a.m. while sitting in a 24-hour diner in Midtown, nursing coffee I couldn't taste. The website promised budget comfort in the heart of Manhattan. They lied about the comfort part. The room was on the 7th floor of a building that smelled like industrial cleaner and defeat. 1 window, 1 bed, 1 chair. The view was a brick wall and a sliver of 8th Avenue where cabs honked through the night like angry geese. I sat on the edge of the bed, still wearing my coat, still holding my purse, still not entirely sure how I'd gotten here. The radiator clanked. On, off, a rhythm that should have been soothing but felt like a countdown to something I couldn't name. My phone sat face down on the nightstand. I'd turned off the sound hours ago, but I could see the screen lighting up every few minutes. Messages coming in, probably from Marcus, probably from his family. Sweetie, where are you? We're worried. Please come home. Home. That word didn't mean anything anymore. I picked up the phone, 23 missed calls, 47 text messages. I scrolled through them with the detachment of someone reading news about a stranger's tragedy. Patricia. Nia. Darling, we're so concerned. Marcus is beside himself. Marcus's sister. This isn't like you. Please call. My brother. What the hell is going on? Marcus. Babe, I don't understand why you left. Call me. I love you. I love you. 3 words, 8 letters, completely meaningless. I blocked them, one by one, each number disappearing with a satisfying finality that should have felt like power but just felt like amputation. When I was done, my contact list looked sparse, empty, a digital representation of my actual life. The room was so quiet I could hear my own heartbeat, slow, steady, stubborn. My father's firefighter badge hung from my keychain, FDNY, engine 239. Badge number 4477. I'd carried it every day since his funeral, a talisman against the world's cruelty. Fat lot of good it did me. I held it up to the light. The metal was worn smooth from 23 years of my thumb rubbing across it whenever I felt scared or alone or uncertain. Dad, I whispered to the empty room. You said if I worked hard and loved honestly, life would be fair. The radiator clanked. You lied. If you've ever sat in a room so quiet it started to echo your thoughts, you'll understand this silence. It's not peaceful. It's suffocating. It's the sound of every choice you've ever made being replayed, at full volume inside your skull. Thank you to those who help keep these stories alive. Your kindness helps give voice to people who've been forgotten, who sit alone in their pain, waiting to be seen again. I don't know how long I sat there. Time felt negotiable. The sky outside went from black to gray to that particular shade of winter blue that means morning in New York. Christmas morning. Somewhere, families were opening presents. Children were shrieking with joy. People who still believed in goodness were making pancakes and laughing at bad jokes. I was in a hotel room that cost $89 a night, holding my dead father's badge and trying to remember what hope felt like. The TV was on mute, some 24-hour news channel showing footage of Rockefeller Center, the giant Christmas tree, crowds of tourists taking selfies. I reached for the remote to turn it off. The channel changed. A choir. Singing. Some Christmas carol I recognized but couldn't name. Oh Holy Night, the stars are brightly shining. My mother loved that song, used to play it every Christmas Eve while she cooked, her voice joining in off-key but earnest. It is the night of our dear Savior's birth. Mom, I said to the screen, to the empty room, to the ghost of every Christmas we'd had in that brownstone when my parents were still alive, and the world made sense. I don't know what to do. The choir sang on. The radiator clanked. And then my phone buzzed. Unknown number. I stared at it, debated letting it go to voicemail. But something instinct, desperation, the sheer absurdity of ignoring a phone call while talking to dead parents made me answer. Hello? Mrs. Rowan? This is Detective Michelle Torres, Brooklyn SVU. I'm calling about a report filed this morning regarding forged documents and potential identity theft. Do you have a moment to talk? I sat up straighter. I have all the time in the world. Good, she said. Because your attorney, Dr. Sarah Chen, sent over some very interesting evidence, and I think you're going to want to hear what we found when we started digging into your husband's business accounts. Outside, the sun finally broke through the clouds. The radiator stopped clanking, and for the first time in 12 hours, I took a full breath. Tell me everything, I said. Detective Torres had a voice like gravel and kindness, rough around the edges but solid underneath. She talked for 20 minutes straight while I sat on that hotel bed, still wearing yesterday's scrubs, watching the sun climb higher over Manhattan. When she finished, I didn't speak for a long time. Mrs. Rowan? You still there? I'm here, I said. My voice sounded strange, flat, like someone else was using my throat. I'm just processing. I understand. Look, we're building a case, but these things take time. Fraud, forgery, identity theft, it's all there, but my phone beeped. Another call coming through. Detective, I need to take this. Can I call you back? Of course. And Mrs. Rowan? Don't go home yet, not until we... I switched lines. Hello? Nia. The voice was elderly, warm, achingly familiar. It's Leonard Becker, my father's attorney. The man who'd handled my parents' estates, who'd sat across from me at 24 years old and explained inheritance law while I ugly cried into tissues he kept producing from an apparently endless box. Mr. Becker? How did you? You called me at 2:13 this morning. Didn't leave a message, but I know your number. I've been worried sick. A pause. Talk to me, sweetheart. What happened? So I told him. Everything. The party, the pregnancy, the forged documents. The conspiracy whispered in my own hallway while I stood invisible in the doorway. The silence when I finished was profound. Then, those goddamn vultures. I'd never heard Leonard Becker curse before. Nia, listen to me. The Rowans Marcus's family, they have a history. I didn't connect it before because you seemed happy. And I thought maybe Marcus was different, but... Papers rustling. 20 years ago, Marcus's uncle married a widow in Park Slope. She had a brownstone, savings, the works. 3 years later, she's in a nursing home with early onset dementia, and her entire estate transferred to the uncle. She died 6 months later. Suspicious as hell, but nothing provable. My blood went cold. There's more. I made some calls this morning. Marcus's trading business? It's a shell. No real clients, no actual revenue. But he's been withdrawing money from an account I didn't even know existed. Rent payments from your basement tenant. $90,000 over 3 years. Gone. The room tilted. And Talia Whitmore? Credit card debt approaching 6 figures. Eviction notices. Collection agencies. That pregnancy isn't a love story, Nia. It's a business plan. If you've ever found truth in the quiet moments after pain, you know what this part feels like. The way clarity cuts through fog. The way everything suddenly, terribly makes sense. Thank you to everyone who supports these stories. Your kindness keeps hope alive for people still finding their voice after betrayal. Mr. Becker, I said slowly, what do I do? You fight. But not with tears or rage or any of the emotions they expect from you. You fight with paperwork, with law, with the truth they thought they could bury. Something inside me shifted, settled, hardened into something I didn't recognize but desperately needed. I stood up, walked to the window, looked out at the city, my father's city, the place that taught me you survive by being smarter, not louder. Tell me how. First, you meet me at my office. Today, I've already pulled your father's original estate documents. That brownstone is yours, Nia. Solely yours. Inherited property, not marital. They can't touch it. But we need to move fast before they try something stupider. I'm on my way. And Nia? They picked the wrong woman. Your father would be so proud of who you're about to become. I grabbed my coat. My hands weren't shaking anymore. Leonard Becker's office was in a pre-war building in the financial district, all dark wood and frosted glass that smelled like old law books and expensive cigars. He'd been practicing for 47 years. He knew every loophole, every precedent, every way to protect what mattered. He slid a thick folder across his desk. Your father was a careful man, Nia. Everything's documented. The brownstone, the rental properties in Crown Heights, even the life insurance, all solely in your name, inherited property. Marcus has zero legal claim. I opened the folder, deed after deed. My father's signature, my mother's, then mine, at 24, grief-stricken and barely understanding what I was signing. Never Marcus's name, not once. But the forged documents, worthless, easily provable fraud. But here's what we're going to do. Becker leaned forward. We're going to let them think they're winning. We're going to let Marcus believe you're vulnerable, distracted, defeated, and while he celebrates, we're going to quietly dismantle every plan he's made. There comes a point when silence stops meaning defeat. It becomes preparation. I left Becker's office with a list. 12 steps. Each one small, each one irreversible. Step 1. I called a security company. Had them install cameras throughout the brownstone, hidden in smoke detectors, picture frames, the antique clock in the hallway. Every room, every angle. Marcus would never think to look. He'd always considered technology my weakness. His mistake. Step 2. I hired a private investigator, a woman named Carmen who'd worked 20 years in NYPD before going private. Cheating husbands are my specialty, she said, almost bored. Give me a week. Step 3. I went to the bank, sat down with the manager I'd known for 6 years, the one who'd congratulated me on my husband's successful trading business without knowing I was funding every cent of it. I'd like to freeze all joint accounts, I said calmly. And I need to update my beneficiary designations, remove Marcus Rowan from everything. Her smile faltered. Mrs. Rowan, are you sure? These are significant changes. I'm very sure. For years, I mistook generosity for love. Now, I'm learning the quiet math of self-respect. Step 4. I contacted every tenant in the rental properties my father left me. 3 units in Crown Heights. I'd let Marcus manage them, which apparently meant depositing their rent into an account only he could access. Effective immediately, I wrote in 3 identical emails. All rent payments should be made to Becker and Associates Trust account. Here's the new routing information. Thank you for your cooperation. $90,000 over 3 years. Gone from his reach overnight. Step 5. I went home. Marcus was in the kitchen when I walked in, 3 days after Christmas. He looked up from his laptop, surprised. "Babe, where have you been?" I was so worried. "Work emergency," I said flatly. "Set my bag down, 72-hour rotation. You know how it is." He studied me, looking for cracks, for tears, for the breakdown he was expecting. I gave him nothing. "Right, of course." He closed his laptop a little too quickly. "Are you okay?" "Fine. Tired. I'm going to take a shower." I walked past him, didn't touch him, didn't look back. Behind me, I heard him exhale. It's funny how silence can sound like thunder when guilt starts to echo. That night I lay in bed beside him, this stranger who'd slept next to me for 7 years, and listened to him breathe. He fell asleep easily, the sleep of someone who thinks he's won. I stared at the ceiling until dawn. Steps 6 through 11 happened over the next week, quietly, methodically. I documented everything, every forged signature, every withdrawal, every lie. Carmen, the PI, sent daily updates, photos of Marcus and Talia at restaurants I couldn't afford, hotel check-ins charged to credit cards I didn't know existed. Videos of them laughing, kissing, planning. One video was particularly illuminating. Talia, tipsy on wine, telling her friend, "Once we get the house, we're selling it. Brooklyn real estate? We'll clear $2 million easy. Then it's goodbye to this frozen hellhole. Hello, Miami. My house. My father's house. My mother's grave converted to liquid assets for their beach condo dreams. I saved every file, organized them by date, built a case so airtight a first-year law student could prosecute it. They taught me that love meant giving. Today, I'm teaching myself that love can also mean stopping. Step 12. I waited. Marcus grew nervous. I could see it in the way he watched me. The way he'd start conversations, and then trail off. The way he kept checking his phone. His rental income had vanished. His access to our accounts blocked. His plans stalling. One evening, I was in the kitchen when I heard him on the back patio, phone pressed to his ear. I touched my earbud, the one connected to the new security system. His voice came through crystal clear. "She didn't sign yet, Talia. I don't know what's wrong. She's just quiet. It's creeping me out." Talia's voice, sharp with panic. "We need that house, Marcus. I have debt collectors threatening lawsuits. You promised." "I know what I promised. But she's not acting right. She's not crying, she's not asking questions, she's just there." "Then make her sign. Tell her it's refinancing paperwork, tell her anything." A pause. Then Marcus, quieter. "What if she knows?" "She doesn't know. She's a nurse, not a detective. She barely reads anything you give her." I smiled. "If she won't sign," Talia continued, voice cold, "then we make her look unstable. Erratic behavior, mental breakdown, whatever. Your mom can back us up. We'll get power of attorney the hard way." I closed my eyes, whispered to the empty kitchen. "Thank you." For the first time, I didn't need them to hear me. My silence had already spoken. And tomorrow, so would my lawyer. The Rowan family Sunday brunch was a tradition. Every first Sunday of the month, Patricia hosted at the brownstone, my brownstone with linen tablecloths, mimosas in crystal flutes, and enough passive-aggressive commentary to fuel a therapy session. January 5th. The first Sunday of the new year. I arrived exactly on time. Patricia answered the door, her smile brittle as ice. "Nia, darling, so glad you could make it. We were worried you'd, well." "Never mind. Come in, come in." The dining room was full. Marcus's parents, his sister, and her husband, his cousin Rachel. Even his uncle, the one Leonard Becker had told me about, the one who'd suspiciously inherited a Park Slope brownstone 20 years ago. And there, sitting beside Marcus at the head of my table, was Talia, her hand resting protectively over her belly, wearing a maternity dress that probably cost more than my monthly hospital salary. She smiled at me. Sweet. Venomous. "Nia, so good to see you. You look tired." I set my purse down on the sideboard. Slowly. Deliberately. "I've been working a lot," I said. My voice was calm, flat, but I'm feeling much better now. Marcus stood, gesturing to an empty chair at the far end of the table, the opposite end from him. "Here, babe, sit down." We ordered your favorite. I'll stand, thanks. The room went quiet. Patricia laughed nervously. Nia, don't be silly. Sit. We have so much to discuss. Marcus mentioned you've been under a lot of stress lately, and we thought. Actually, Marcus interrupted, reaching for a manila folder beside his plate. This is perfect timing. Nia, I know things have been tense, and I wanted to make sure we're on the same page financially. These are just some refinancing papers for the house. Standard stuff. If you could just sign. I pulled my phone from my pocket. Before I sign anything, I said quietly, I think everyone should hear something. I pressed play. The dining room speakers connected to the whole house sound system my father installed in 2003 crackled to life. Everyone, Talia's pregnant. 16 weeks. We're expecting a boy. Marcus's voice. Christmas Eve. Champagne drunk and jubilant. Cheers. Laughter. The sound of my world ending. Marcus went white. Nia, wait. Not yet. I need her to sign the papers first. Don't say anything when she gets here. I need this done clean. His mother's hand flew to her mouth. I turned up the volume. Once the papers are signed, the whole estate becomes ours. This house, the accounts, everything. Talia's voice. Clear, cold, calculating. The room was frozen. Every face a mask of horror. I scrolled to the next file. A phone conversation from 3 days ago. She didn't sign yet, Talia. I don't know what's wrong. Then make her sign. Tell her it's refinancing paperwork. Tell her anything. Marcus stood, hands raised. Nia, please. Let me explain. If she won't sign, then we make her look unstable. Erratic behavior, mental breakdown, whatever. Your mom can back us up. Patricia made a sound like a wounded animal. I stopped the recording. The silence was absolute. When I spoke, my voice was steady, surgical. For 7 years, I worked 2 jobs to keep this house. My house. The one my father died protecting on September 11th. The one my mother cleaned herself to death maintaining. The house Marcus never paid a single mortgage payment on because he was too busy burning through $90,000 of my rental income on a fake trading business. I pulled a second folder from my purse, set it on the table. These are divorce papers, also fraud complaints filed with the Brooklyn DA, forgery charges for the signatures Marcus attempted on property transfer documents. A restraining order preventing any member of the Rowan family from entering 447 Sterling Place. And a full accounting of every dollar stolen from my inherited properties over the past 3 years. Marcus's face was gray. Talia's was red. You can't, she started. I can. I did. And tomorrow morning, my attorney delivers copies to your creditors, Talia. All 6 of them. Along with evidence that you conspired to commit real estate fraud. Enjoy explaining that to a judge. I turned to Patricia. To the woman who'd looked down on me for 7 years, who'd cried tears of joy when her son announced another woman's pregnancy in my living room. You raised a thief, I said quietly, and you enabled him. I hope it was worth it. I picked up my purse. Looked at Talia one last time. Her hand still on her belly, her eyes wide with panic. Hope the baby shower doesn't require a mortgage. Someone gasped. I walked to the front door. My father's door. The one he'd painted blue because my mother said it reminded her of the ocean. Behind me, Marcus called out, Nia, please. We can fix this. I love you. I stopped. Turned. No, Marcus, you loved what I could give you. There's a difference. I stepped outside. The January air hit my face like baptism. Cold. Clean. New. I closed the door on the Rowan family brunch. On 7 years of lies. On the woman I used to be. And I walked down the stoop of my father's house finally, completely mine again. For the first time in months, I smiled. Not with bitterness. With freedom. After the verdict, silence became my favorite sound. It was the sound of justice finally breathing. I didn't go back to the brownstone that night. Couldn't face the emptiness yet, the ghost of what I'd believed my life was. Instead, I stayed with Sarah Chen in her Tribeca loft, drinking tea that tasted like nothing while she fielded calls from her legal team. NYPD picked up Marcus 2 hours ago, she said, hanging up her phone, questioning about the forged signatures, Becker's pushing for formal charges. I nodded. Felt nothing. Or maybe felt everything, compressed into a single point of calm I didn't recognize. The consequences came fast after that. Within 48 hours, every joint account was frozen pending investigation. Marcus's access to my rental properties revoked. The second-floor apartment in the brownstone where I'd let his parents stay rent-free for 3 years? Eviction notice served by courier on Monday morning. I didn't order it. Becker did. Legally, they're squatters, he'd said matter-of-factly. And given their complicity in the fraud scheme, I'd advise you to protect your assets. Patricia called 17 times that first week. I never answered. Carmen, my PI, sent me updates I didn't ask for but somehow needed to see. Talia fled the city, drove to her mother's place in Pennsylvania, the same night as the brunch, her Instagram going dark, her phone disconnected. Word filtered back through mutual acquaintances. Her creditors had found her. 6 figures in debt, no Marcus to bankroll her escape, and a pregnancy she'd banked on as insurance now worth exactly nothing. Marcus tried to get a loan using the brownstone as collateral. The bank laughed him out of the building when they ran the deed and saw only my name. Solely. Inherited. Untouchable. He moved into his cousin's basement in Staten Island. A man who'd worn custom suits and talked about his portfolio now taking the ferry to job interviews at financial firms that wouldn't return his calls once they Googled his name. Fraud allegations have a way of haunting people in the finance world. I didn't need to ruin them. Their lies had already done that. One afternoon in late January, I was at the hospital back to regular shifts, back to the rhythm of saving lives and drinking bad coffee, when I saw Patricia in the waiting room. She looked smaller than I remembered. Older. Her expensive coat couldn't hide the defeat in her shoulders. She saw me. Started to stand. I kept walking. Heard her voice behind me. Nia, please. He's my son. He made mistakes, but... I stopped. Turned slowly. He tried to steal my father's home, I said quietly. The home my father died for. And you helped him. I didn't know. You knew enough. She opened her mouth, closed it. The fight drained from her face like color from old photographs. I walked away. Didn't look back. They used to whisper that I'd lost my mind. Now they avoid their own reflections. The divorce moved through the courts with surprising speed. Marcus contested nothing, couldn't afford a lawyer once the fraud charges hit, couldn't risk a trial that would expose everything publicly. His mother tried to rally family support, but even the Rowans have limits when theft and forgery enter the conversation. By February, the papers were signed, the brownstone confirmed as my sole property, the rental income restored to my accounts, every dollar Marcus had stolen subject to restitution pending criminal proceedings. I stood in the empty house on a Wednesday evening, the February light coming through windows I'd cleaned 1,000 times, falling on floors I'd refinished with my own hands. The silence was profound. Not empty. Not lonely. Just quiet. I found an old wedding photo in a drawer, Marcus and me on the courthouse steps, him in a borrowed suit, me in my mother's dress. We'd looked so young, so certain. I held it for a long moment. Then I tore it in half. Dropped it in the recycling bin. Some debts don't need to be collected. Life has its own way of balancing the books. Sarah called that evening. Marcus pled guilty to attempted fraud. Becker negotiated full restitution plus court costs. No jail time, but his record's permanent. Okay, I said. You don't sound happy. I'm not happy. I'm not sad. I'm just... done. She laughed softly. That's called peace, Nia. That's what winning actually feels like. I hung up. Looked around my father's house, my house at the life I'd almost lost to people who saw love as leverage. Outside, Brooklyn moved at its usual frenetic pace. Sirens. Laughter. The distant rumble of the subway. The city that raised me, that taught me survival, isn't about being loudest, it's about being smartest. I poured a glass of wine, my mother's favorite cheap Merlot, raised it to the empty room. We kept the house, Dad, I whispered. We kept it. Somewhere in Staten Island, Marcus was learning what it meant to lose everything. Somewhere in Pennsylvania, Talia was explaining to her mother why her fairy tale ended in fraud charges. Somewhere, the Rowans were packing boxes and pretending they'd always known their son was capable of this. And here, in my father's brownstone, I was learning what it meant to be whole again. Not happy yet. Not healed yet. But mine. Finally, completely, mine. After the noise fades, what's left isn't victory, it's understanding. March came to Brooklyn with the kind of timid warmth that makes you believe in second chances. The trees on Sterling Place started budding, and the neighborhood kids were back outside, their laughter floating through open windows like a promise that life, somehow, keeps moving forward. I stood in the hallway of the brownstone, my brownstone with a paintbrush in my hand, and my father's firefighter badge newly framed on the wall. Engine 239. Badge 4477. The metal caught the afternoon light, and for a moment I could almost hear his voice. "Nia, bird, you're stronger than you know." It took losing everything to prove him right. The divorce finalized on a Tuesday. Judge Morrison signed the papers with barely a glance. Marcus had contested nothing, admitted to the fraud, agreed to full restitution. His lawyer, a tired-looking man from legal aid, kept his eyes on the table the entire hearing. Marcus wasn't even there. Couldn't afford the day off from his new job bussing tables at a diner in Astoria. Minimum wage plus tips, trying to pay back $90,000 one shift at a time. I didn't feel satisfaction when I heard. Didn't feel much of anything, except a distant sort of sadness, the way you feel when you hear about a stranger's misfortune. He'd become someone I used to know. Someone whose choices had nothing to do with me anymore. Justice isn't about watching them fall, it's about standing again without hate. Talia's Instagram went dark in February, then deleted entirely in March. Carmen, my PI, sent me one last update I didn't ask for. "Thought you should know paternity test came back. Baby wasn't Marcus's. She's back with an ex-boyfriend in Scranton. They're getting married next month." I read it twice. Then I laughed, not with cruelty, but with the absurdity of it all. Marcus had been willing to destroy our marriage, steal my inheritance, and forge legal documents for a child that was never even his. The universe has a dark sense of humor sometimes. The Rowans moved to a one-bedroom in the Bronx. Patricia sent me a letter in April, handwritten, shaky script that looked like it aged her 10 years. "Dear Nia, I know I have no right to ask for your forgiveness. I was a terrible mother-in-law and an even worse person. I hope someday you'll understand that I was blind, not evil. Though perhaps there's no difference. I'm sorry." I read it on the front stoop with my morning coffee. Read it 3 times. Then I folded it carefully and put it in a drawer, not to punish her with silence, but because forgiveness, real forgiveness, isn't something you give to make someone else feel better. It's something you choose for yourself, in your own time, when you're ready to stop carrying the weight of their mistakes. I wasn't ready yet. Maybe I never would be. And that was okay too. I used to believe love meant giving everything. Now I know love also means knowing when to stop. One evening in late April, I sat on the stoop watching the neighborhood come alive. Mrs. Chen from next door watering her tulips, the Martinez kids racing bikes, the couple from 451 walking their dog, arguing about dinner plans in that comfortable way long married people do. Sarah joined me, 2 glasses of wine in hand. "You look different," she said, studying my face. "Lighter." "I feel different." "Happy?" I considered it. "Not yet. But peaceful. Is that enough?" She clinked her glass against mine. "That's everything." We sat in comfortable silence, watching the sun paint the brownstones gold. "You know what I realized?" I said eventually. "Justice didn't make me whole. It just cleared away the debris so I could start rebuilding." "And what are you building?" "I don't know yet. But it's mine. Every brick. Every choice. Mine." That night, alone in my father's house, my house, I stood at the window of my childhood bedroom, the room where my mother used to read me stories, where my father taught me to tie my shoes, where I'd cried after his funeral and swore I'd protect everything he'd left me. "Dad," I whispered to the empty room, to the ghost of the man who'd carried me on his shoulders through this neighborhood. "I did it. I kept the house. I kept myself." The wind rattled the window frame. Or maybe it was just my imagination giving me the answer I needed. Either way, I felt lighter. If you've ever lost yourself trying to love someone who only saw your worth in numbers, I hope my story reminds you, it's never too late to choose yourself. Thank you for keeping these stories alive, stories where justice doesn't shout. It heals. Justice gave me back my name. But peace gave me back myself. I don't know what tomorrow brings. Maybe I'll meet someone who understands that love isn't measured in mortgage payments or sacrifice scorecards. Maybe I'll stay single and learn to be enough on my own. Maybe I'll finally take that trip to Italy my mother always dreamed about. But tonight, I'm sitting in my father's brownstone, drinking cheap wine, listening to the city I love rumble and sing outside my window. And for the first time in 7 years, I'm not afraid of being alone. Because I'm not alone. I'm free. And sometimes, that's the same thing.